Hydraulic torque. If you remember, we develop hydraulic power. We can also develop equation to calculate torque in a hydraulic system. To calculate that, let's start with the equation, the power equation. We know that power can be calculated by the rate of work, which is work is force times distance by T, and then work, and then force times distance is basically work per T. Or we can write x by T is velocity, so Fv, that is the equation to calculate power. Now the linear velocity, we can write that instead of v, we can write 2 pi times the n times the r. The linear velocity v is omega r, and omega is 2 pi times the frequency r per minute, and then the r is the radius. So we can write F times r and then 2 pi, and we can keep like that. So F times r, which is if you have a situation like this, and then you apply some force here, and then the distance is r, then we can say the torque can be calculated as T is equal to force times the momentum or distance, like that. So we can transfer this equation to something like torque 2 pi and then n. Now we can write this power equation like this. PQ is also power, hydraulic power. We can correlate this with hydraulic power. So now we can convert this Q. If you remember before, Q is the volumetric displacement every revolution of a pump, the amount of fluid displaced times the RPM. So you can write P VD, and for Q we can write VD times N, which is equal to 2T 2 pi times N. N cancel out from both sides, so we can solve for T. That gives us the P times the volumetric displacement divided by 2 pi. So this is the equation to use to calculate the torque. We can say hydraulic torque. There is nothing different with the regular torque, like F equals, T equals torque equals force times distance. It's the same thing. The reason why we call hydraulic, because we are using pressure times the volumetric displacement. So if we keep, let me write down hydraulic torque. So if we keep the unit, for example, T, we will come in pound inches. If we keep the pressure unit in PSI, pound per square inch, and then volumetric displacement is inch cube. Typically it is inch cube per minute. However, inch cube per revolution, but people really don't say that way. It's so common, so they just say inch cube, which implied, like every revolution is kind of implied. So if you keep everything in usual unit, US customer unit or English unit, it will come in pound. Torque will come in pound inches. So that's the equation to calculate hydraulic torque.